progress.
Ready to go? Okay. Good morning, everyone. I made an echo. Welcome to the November 16th meeting of the Facilities and Infrastructure Committee. I'm here, and Lee Shurtleff is here, and also Randy Brown. Greg Mezey and Deborah Dawson are both excused. Changes to the agenda. I'd like to add a resolution under administration, appropriation from contingent fund to move electric pole at 408 North Tioga, and that's on your desk. I want to withdraw under airport resolution 12049, the terminal parking lots request. I think that's not ready, and they've asked for that to be withdrawn. And there's some changes on the administration policy manual. That's under administration. That's the resolution 12005. And I guess they're on your desk now as well with the changes. And Randy, I know you want to talk about the 400 block of Tioga Street. Maybe we can do that when we're talking about this resolution about the NYSEG pole. Would that make sense? Okay. Any other changes to the agenda? I don't have a formal report this morning. Go to our county administrator, Lisa Holmes.
Thank you. Good morning. Can jump right into the resolution that's on the agenda.
Okay, can we get a motion to for the resolution to update the administrative policy manual, policy 01-54, Center for History and Culture, tenant and lease policy, number 12005, with the additions that are on the form which is on the desk here. Lee moves it, Randy seconds it. Go ahead.
Thank you. This policy has gone through government operations, but since the Center for History and Culture, I believe, is under F&I, we wanted to make sure the committee had the opportunity to review it and ask questions. Since we have held the Center for History and Culture, we've had a very stable tenancy in the building, and it came to our attention this year that it's been under the tenants and the management of the building. The director of the History Center has been designated to handle a lot of that. He came forward and said, well, if and when we have some space in the building, he would like some guidance as to who is the final decision maker in terms of who the tenants are in the building. And so this policy attempts to provide that clarification. And the changes that you see in the version before you were those that were suggested at the GO committee.
On D, application denial, I don't think there should be a line through denied, so I don't know whether that would track out or not.
Oh, that's right. I think that line was going to be automatically. That was the, what I recall, the conversation at the GO committee.
Yeah, but I think it should read properly, applications may be automatically denied for the following reasons. All I'm saying is, in my copy, denied has a line through it, and I don't think we intended that, did we?
No, no. But I do, well, we could go back and check, but I do think that maybe the word automatically was intended to be stricken.
Oh. You're right. I think that's what the discussion was. So maybe the striking line is just in the wrong place.
Have that noted.
Andy?
I know very little about that building, and other than I have visited the History Center numerous times recently, and enjoyed that when I go there. My daughter was. It's good education for people. I don't know who the tenants are. I don't know what the cost for a building, and I don't know if facilities department tracks the cost associated with each individual building. So maybe at some point it'd just be a good exercise to say, here's cost, here's the tenants, here's what income we're getting, here's any maintenance upgrades that need to be done, just an overview of that building, maybe even a walkthrough. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to go in the upstairs buildings. I've only been downstairs, so.
Randy, could you please talk closer to your mic?
Sorry about that.
Thank you.
Perhaps we could put an item on a future agenda to have a review of that building and invite Ben Sanders in and Arel and talk about that. Does that
Sure.
wouldn't that make
That'd be
sense
great.
for you?
Thank you.
Make a note of that, Taylor, please. Thank you. Any other questions? Ready to vote? Those in favor? Any opposed? That's unanimous. Unanimous of the three of us. Now let's go to the resolution appropriation from contingent fund to move the electric pole at 408 North Tioga. Can I get a motion on that? Randy, is there a second? Seconded by Lee. Norma, you want to talk about this?
Sure. So thankfully, our estimate came back a lot lower than what was originally said by the electrician. And to move the pole, it's going to cost us about $9,500. I don't know the timeline, to get the work done once this is approved, but we will have to enter into an agreement with NYSEG to start that process. I do think, though, that by moving the pole, it will help us to market the red house and better and allow for a better use of that property to be able to have a driveway and limit the possibility of requests for easements to the county's land.
Where is it moving to?
It'll be 10 to 12 feet south of the current location.
It'll still be on the property.
It'll be on the property, yeah, just move.
But what it gives us the opportunity to put a driveway in there. Randy?
Yeah, I went over and looked at that. It looks like it's maybe 3 or 4 feet, blocking. So that if you could move it that far, then you could obviously have that access and not have to extend that. So I think it makes sense and might be easier for us to do it than somebody else.
Plus, if we get the order in, maybe we can get it done, considering NYSEG's schedules. It may be a while before they can get to it.
I'm still not in favor of selling the property, but that horse has left the barn, so I'll support this.
I feel the very same way, Lee. Okay. I still thought it probably had its useful life. But you're exactly right. This is the will of the legislature. All right, so can we vote on this? All those in favor? Any opposed? That's unanimous. Norma, really thank you for working on this. I know you did. Lisa, thanks for assigning her to do that. Speaking of Red House, which I still think should be a White House, but go.
I'll ask Norma to provide the update.
Well, I have some spray paint in my office, Mike. I could go try to paint that Just
As
kidding.
long as it's not graffiti.
Yeah, so we are working with the Realtor to develop the marketing. The plan is to begin marketing this on November 27th, and we'll be looking for offers. We'll set a deadline for offers in mid-December, and those offers will come in for Lisa's review. We will be walking the property line actually today, and just to identify, while we've seen the images of what that looks like for the Realtor's ability to show the property well and to market the property well, we just want to have that kind of a clear idea of what those boundaries will look like. And she's been doing some investigating also with the History Center, I'm sorry, not the History Center, the Historic Ithaca folks to determine some of any restrictions for tax credits and such. So she's really been doing quite a bit of work on behalf of the county, and I'm very thankful for that, because that it saves a lot of our time to go do that type of investigation. But all in all, we're moving right along. There is a plan in place. We'll have the marketing done and ready by the 27th of November.
Did you select a real estate broker?
Yes, oh, yeah, it's Carol Bushberg Real Estate. Carol Bushberg is actually representing it.
But that was the recommendation of the team that was interviewing them. Randy and I were both on that.
And she's done a great job for us so far.
Oh, good reputation.
Thought it was interesting. She told us she had represented on the purchase by IC of the two houses up there that they just bought adjacent to their campus. Historic, I think they're historic houses. I don't know if it's a historic district, but. All right. Anything else for county administration this morning?
I think that's it. We're busy in a number of fronts, but I think that's what pertains to F&I.
Are we starting the new budget yet?
We will be advertising to hire a budget director shortly, this month.
Excuse me.
Let's go to Jeff Smith at Highway Department. Good morning, Jeff.
Morning, everyone. Have a resolution for F&I to consider.
Well, let's put it on the table. Resolution to appropriate additional American Rescue Plan Act funds for Bridge New York 6 Culvert Capital Project. That's ID 10223. Lee's moved it. Randy seconded it. Go ahead. Jeff?
Yep, sorry.
Go ahead and.
Quick math. I wanted to have a number in my head. This is more of a housekeeping resolution, as I would describe it. Everyone may recall, we had proactively, in advance of the start of the project, sent the state 1.7 million local share for work on 4 culvert projects that the DOT is we're designing and building through construction for the county. That's how the Bridge New York program worked, that phase. This is about 3 or 4 years old now, the beginning of that. And the period, the earlier phases, when it was in the right-of-way phase, there were checks cut from that account of the original 1.7 to fund, which makes sense, fund our the small pieces of right-of-way that was taken in order to complete these projects. So as those phases were completed and that money was drawn down from the 1.7, back to more recently, you may recall we had to cut a check for 1.7 completely, that exact amount to the state for that was named in the agreement for the local share. And as you also may recall, the 1.7 was based on 5 culverts, and they were only going to be doing 4 for us. So what is calculated needed is $1,345,000. The state decided that we needed to send them the full amount under the original agreement, which we did. And so we are still, even though we're doing this transfer to make that account whole, and that's why I get to the housekeeping kind of thing, we are still expected to come back eventually at some point, receive a check back from the state for about $355,000. That was the math I was doing. The projects at this point, they're days away from completing the Ellis Hollow project. That is the 3rd of 4. The 4th project on Peruville Road will be started in the spring. None of the 3 that they've done have accumulated any kind of additional local cost, any kind of change orders, certainly that I've been made aware of, but I'm certainly also asking in close communication with Jesse Wildman, the New York State DOT engineer in charge on these projects. Thank you.
So on that, I saw the notice from DOT about the closure of Ellis Hollow Road. How is that affecting the traffic flow there?
Well, it's been closed for a few months now. They were expected to be open, I think, this week or next, and it's been extended to the first couple days in December.
Yeah, that's what I read.
Is that what the announcement was that you're talking about?
Yes, until December 2nd or something.
Right. So the fact that the detour has been in place, I think people are pretty used to going around it. A little bit of an extension I don't feel is an impact. The only impact that I see that we've accommodated here is if we do get some winter weather, and need to do some snow and ice control. When we have closures like that, we need to go around them just like everybody else. So we have some awareness in place to address any issues if we do get any winter weather before it's open.
Jeff, do you want to talk about the Forest Home intersection and the RFP?
So the Pleasant Grove Road and Craddock Farm intersection.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I thought. We worked with the town of Ithaca and administration, myself, we put together a draft and then formalized it with an RFP that we have most recently worked with the Forest Home community to share with them to receive any feedback. We're expecting that by the end of the week, which is soon upon us. We sent it to them, I think Shauna sent it to them Monday or Tuesday. It's looking to get a third-party opinion on any of the actual designs that could happen there and whether they would actually work under the language in the MOA to determine whether it would readily push or realign and make traffic more thoroughly or more readily go onto the campus rather than down through Forest Home. So it's a pretty straightforward RFP. It's going to be interesting to see what the consultant, which one we hire. We're only looking for hiring a consultant to give us that answer. Time frame, roughly off the top of my head, I believe that it would be all wrapped up, RFP selection, having their work done. We're looking for completion of it, having an answer by April 1st of 24.
And I would mention that there was a meeting that actually you led the conversation at among our group from the Tompkins County, Town of Ithaca, and Cornell University, plus the members of the community that have shown interest in this project. So we appreciate that. That led to the basically the direction to go ahead with the RFP.
Correct. I started after that. Thank you.
One more question. Can we get this culvert that we had to skip in the next round for the Bridge New York money?
That's a good question. We have other culverts that are also good candidates. We actually skipped, so the one that is completely designed and right of way and permits for is on Conlin Road. We received the plans from the state on those, and we're looking to do that in-house. We're looking at cost financing those plans, re-looking at the plans, procuring the culvert, the concrete precast, putting it out to bid ourselves. The idea being that our maintenance funds, this would not be a capital project. This would be done, our maintenance bond funds, road maintenance and bridge funds. There's a lot of different names. Sorry about that. Anticipate an increase for next year from 1.8 to 2.4. So we could accommodate most, if not all, the costs within that amount of funding. Our staff has been meeting and just kind of spitballing at this point, but that's the direction we're heading in. It will get done a lot sooner than submitting it as a Bridge New York project. And I believe it will also, with the savings of we've already basically paid for the design. We don't want to pay for it again. And ultimately, we're looking to have it get done and doing it in a much more cost-effective way.
But you said we're still applying for Bridge New York money for other projects, right?
Absolutely. Yep. That was another announcement I had to make at some point during this meeting, that I received confirmation that in a few dates that the Bridge New York program next phase is coming out. Similar funding, similar format for projects. There's $357 million towards bridges statewide and $126 million towards culverts statewide. The deadline for project submission is going to be mid-January of 2024, and I'm not going to hold my breath, but selections of project announced by mid-April of 2024. So it's supposed to be in the spring of next year. We should have an idea of what our next round of Bridge New York bridges and culverts will be.
We have bridges that we want to propose?
We do. We haven't got the aggregate, the detail on what the actual, say, rules. They do change the program a little bit, but the wording at earlier this notice that I just received late yesterday was that the program was going to be modeled the same way. If that's the case, all of what we submitted on the previous round will work and score well in the next round. You may recall the way Bridge New York was done this last round. There was known allocations throughout MPOs and regions. Our MPO received $4.58 million. So it was kind of a known number. And then it was up to the bridge owners. That was only bridges. It did not include culverts. Culverts was more of a regional award. But bridge-wise, it was kind of decided locally in some ways that the city got a really large bridge on Kaga Street right near the high school. And then the town of Ithaca was awarded a county bridge on a town road up on Town Line Road. So it was a good, it was good to receive that funding. We did receive a culvert, and that was a little more competitive area on Midline, which we are beginning to move early next year through our capital program. We do have candidates to submit applications for in the next round, but we will always look at our more recent bridge inspections and see if there may be something moving ahead of one that we've already submitted.
One other thing I wanted to raise, Randy, and I don't want to go into it very deeply, but Randy raised an issue properly about the Morrill Road Bridge, where the temporary bridge is located on, with his permission, on some property of his, which I understand he would like to sell. And we don't want to get Randy into any kind of a conflict of interest, but we want to make sure that there are discussions about this going on. Randy, is that, have I said that properly?
Yeah, but I know Jeff has spoken to my attorney about it, and I think they're trying to figure it out. So,
Well, thank you for alerting the committee. That was exactly proper.
That's true. I've been talking to an attorney regarding the right-of-way and the bridge as it sits now that is in use is on the old alignment of the original bridge prior to the closed bridge and where that sits now. There's been 3 bridges historically there. One was removed and shifted downstream and made the one that's sitting there now the old bridge. And then when we discovered that there was still an old alignment and they never gave that land back, we were able to use that old alignment of the original bridge. It's kind of hard to say, but that was the debate. I supplied the lawyer with some information that I could find in our archives, and I haven't heard any more. And that was a few weeks ago. I don't expect. I think that answered any questions as far as the land transaction.
Okay, well, again, we don't need to get into it very deeply here, but just wanted to make sure that those proper discussions are underway. Randy.
Yes, Jeff, I know that the town of Enfield is looking at a culvert problem on Bostrick Road. I know it's a town road and it's probably a town culvert. Do they have the same ability, or is it their responsibility to apply for the same Bridge New York funds? I know it's going to be quite expensive for them. I don't think it's something they're looking forward to doing.
The culvert program and the bridge program is open to all municipalities in New York State. So the town of Enfield this would be an opportunity for them to apply for funding. We have helped all the towns in the county to produce a application if they have questions. We will normally direct them to our short list of consultants that will, there's a little bit of, we guide them through the process and how they procure that consultant. And there's some wording and some emails and requests that is necessary. So, because if you want to hire the consultant, just say it the way it is. Basically, they usually will provide the application free, but the state wants you to procure that service with certain wording that makes sense so that you're not excluding that consultant from actually providing design for the culvert down the road if you want, and it's only voluntary. But long story short, we work with all the towns in the county to get applications submitted and to be competitive as they can for to be awarded for that bridge money or culvert money.
That's helpful. Thank you.
Anything else for Jeff?
We still need a vote on that.
Yeah,
We haven't voted yet? Sorry. Can we vote then? All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you, Taylor. That's unanimous. Then let's go to, thank you very much, Jeff.
Thank you, everyone.
Let's go to
a
Terry
great
and Frank.
Thanksgiving.
Why don't you come up? Why don't you come up?
Check, okay.
Morning, Frank.
Good morning, good morning. Joan is also on the call. I was just here representing the resolution housekeeping stuff that we want to do based on Dwight's retirement, and just here to answer any questions if there were any, that's all.
Thank you. And Joan's here this morning. Good morning, Joan Jerkowitz.
Good morning.
Let's go to the resolution appropriation from contingent fund terminal pay, Transportation Planning Division. That's ID 12036. Randy's moving it. Lee has seconded it. Thank heavens. Any discussion or any questions for Frank on that? All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Now we have a resolution affirming the Ithaca Tompkins County Transportation Council, ITCTC, recommendation to increase the ITCTC staff director's salary, 12053. Randy's moved it. Mr. Shurtleff has seconded it. Discussion about that.
This happens every year, right? So what?
Yes, and it generally tracks the white collar agreement, so. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, anything else on transportation planning? Let's go to Department of Planning and Sustainability. Joan, is there anything you want to say before we get to the resolution? Or did we lose her?
I think it's me today, Mike.
You're carrying us on that.
I am carrying this.
Thank you, Terry. We're glad you're here.
Yeah, thank you. So the background on this is you might recall that at the Caswell landfill, we engaged in a partnership with NYSERDA's Build Ready program to evaluate that site to place a solar array and battery storage. The way this program works is NYSERDA acts as a developer. They come in, they look at the site, they do a lot of the due diligence, they look at what it would take to connect to the grid, they look at doing wetland delineations, environmental, they do seeker, they're the lead agency for seeker, they do a lot of the background to understand what would be feasible at a site, and then they take that project that they've developed and they put it out to an auction, and they ask for requests for qualifications for developers, and then from that select group of developers, they release an auction, and those developers are able to bid into the state and say, we're willing to build this project for, if you give us this amount of incentives, essentially. They're buying the renewable energy certificates. And so with Caswell, we've engaged them in that program. It's been going really well. It's been one of the best programs that I've personally worked with NYSERDA. It's a great team there. And we're at the point in that project where we're doing an interconnection study. And it's an update that I gave to Peak, I think it was last month. So this is a little bit different, where in the course of our work with the Build Ready team in the Caswell array, they asked us, are there any other sites that are worth considering? And we threw out a few different places, and one of the ones that kind of struck them was the airport. And so they've been working with an airport over in Western New York to see if this is, if that was something that they wanted to pursue. And they've had some conversations with the FAA that seemed amenable to that. And so they took a look at our project, or our area here at the airport, and they realized that while a solar array would be interesting, it might not work due to the infrastructure of the grid in that particular area. But what would really work is battery storage. And so they're really excited about doing a battery storage project at our airport and then possibly pairing that with a little bit of solar. But my understanding from them is that it would primarily be around battery storage. So based on that conversation, we engaged Roxanne and Josh. We had some conversations about, is this something that you would be amenable to? We looked at maps and said, well, here are areas that would make sense. Here are areas that are already marked for development for the airport. Here's areas that we don't want to get into because of runoffs and other safety-related impacts. And then the big thing from Roxanne and Josh was, as long as the FAA is on board with this, we're on board as well. And so NYSERDA engaged the FAA. In principle, they have no issues with this. The one caveat that they added is that they haven't done too many of these. And so this would be really kind of pushing the envelope a little bit. And part of this process would be working with the FAA to develop guidelines for other projects that might take place around the country. And so what we're asking for in this resolution is essentially to authorize Lisa to sign the MOU with NYSERDA that would enable them to start doing that development that they've done at the Caswell array. If that development goes well, if the project looks like it's viable and it eventually goes to auction, what we would be doing is we would be leasing a portion of the airport property to essentially put in this clean energy project. And the hope would be that those lease payments would be able to go to the airport to continue to support them moving forward and be a steady source of income, which I know is something that's really attractive to the airport. So that's essentially what we're looking for in this.
So as you say, Roxanne is here. Good morning, Roxanne. Is what Terry's saying, are you on board with that?
Absolutely, absolutely. The crucial part is making sure the FAA is on board. We've been down this road with different projects, and, and as long as they're, meeting with the FAA and talking with them, we are for it. And the lease payments, as you know, will definitely help the airport budget, and getting us back self-sustainable, so.
Can we let's get the motion on the table, or the resolution, authorizing memorandum of understanding with New York State Research and Development Authority, that's NYSERDA, for the exclusive right to develop a feasibility assessment for the Tompkins County International Airport for the purpose of developing a clean energy project, ID 12050. Lee, seconded by Randy. Go ahead, Lee.
Just a question. Years ago, Rocky, we looked at microgrid project up there in the area with battery storage. Where did that ever end up? Is this anything we can build on or revisit?
I think there's plenty of opportunities. I think the business plan that we're going to be working on with QED will also help this. We're working on the contracts now that was approved at the last F&I and full-edge meeting. And so I think there's multiple projects that we can look at moving forward for other revenue streams, and that's a part of the plan. So, any information that you have on that too, Lee, I'm trying to remember. I know there was many things happening, so I think it's many opportunities.
It was pre-COVID, just before I left the department and went on to other ventures, but there was an ambitious plan in the works there. Maybe you've looked at it, Terry, to create some battery storage that would make the area sustainable, especially in emergencies.
Yeah, and we've had some initial conversations with the Build Ready team. Along with the lease payments, these projects also come with some host community benefits. And one of the ones that we've potentially talked about is hooking up the airport, possibly the sheriff's complex there, as well as our Department of Emergency Response, all being kind of in that adjacent area, hooking them up to whatever battery storage would be available to make them available to be part of this microgrid that could island in case of an emergency. And the conversation that we've had is kind of along the lines of what Roxanne was talking about. It's, when the grid goes down, those batteries are able to supply some amount of power, but the grid's down, they're not able really to do too much. But if they're hooked up to the county, it's an additional source of revenue for them where they can continue to provide that power to the county. And so it's really attractive to developers as well. So what that community host benefit could be would be hooking us up to those batteries so that we could be able to use them as a microgrid. So we're actively talking about that as a possibility. And I see Katie has her hand up, so.
I'm just going to jump in real quick
She does.
too. Sorry, Katie, to finish on I think that we're also looking at a project as competitive bill funding that we're working with Katie and Terry and CNS. And this will also help, with solar panels at the airport, but also battery storage and backup storage. So multiple programs, and it's a great fit, I think, for the competitive bill funding, which is additional to our regular bill funding. That's all I have.
Katie?
Yeah, just to answer your question, Lee, I was part of that microgrid study back before the pandemic, and that was funded through New York State through the New York Prize program, and we got funding in phase 1, but they determined that our report and our cost-benefit analysis wasn't competitive for funding under phase 2, so that's what happened to that study.
Okay, that was my disconnect, so, yeah.
Yeah,
Thanks.
great.
Randy?
For this resolution today, there's no local cost for us.
No, there's no local cost. The one caveat that I'll add there is when we did the agreement with Caswell, the department that manages Caswell's recycling materials management, they had engaged a contractor that they work with, Barton LaJudas, a consultant, to help them go through the regulations of, making sure that it would follow all the DEC requirements. That would be a choice that I would leave to Roxanne to make, whether they felt that was necessary, or because the FAA has such strict, compliance and regulations, if that would be enough to ensure, the safety of the site.
The other question I have is, all the airport land, is that all owned by the county? I know Cornell owns a lot of land up there and leases it, but is that all county-owned land?
Roxanne?
A large majority of it is, yes, there is Cornell property entwined in, and then county is the remainder. And so, like, even under the buildings, we own The building will revert back to us, but it's more of a lease even on direct airport property.
So we pay Cornell an annual lease payment for the land there?
We do not know. That we just use their land. So we're actually working on, the agreement was back 19, I don't know, we're doing a new agreement. So I'm working with the county attorney in Cornell on the land. We need a survey completed for the land that is Cornell's up here.
Thank you.
Yep.
One thing I was thinking about with this battery storage, Terry, and especially if it's a new project that NYSERDA hasn't had a lot to do with, and that is the public safety aspect of it. Will we be working with our Department of Emergency Response, with our airport fire service, with other volunteers? I mean, what happens when you have a problem at a battery storage facility? Can they blow up? Can they catch fire? How do you fight the fire if that's the case? I think all of that ought to be part of whatever we're looking at here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is conversations that we've had with emergency response already regarding other projects that are going on around the county, and making sure that there's adequate training for emergency personnel, not just county personnel, but personnel all across the county that are involved in these services. And we've been talking about hosting different trainings. One of the things the FAA liked about the idea of doing this project at the airport is that there are staff already on hand there if something were to go wrong. And the major danger with these batteries is less so much blowing up as it is a fire hazard. And we've seen that in a couple of different places. It's getting better. The technology is getting better in respect to that, but it would be something that we would make sure that our staff had the training required and that we had the implements that would be required in order to contain any possible fire along those lines. The only other thing I want to mention is, if I say battery energy storage, but this could be other types of storage as well. So it wouldn't necessarily be batteries. It could be some type of mechanical storage, like a flywheel, for instance. That's still part of the conversation. Or it could be different types of batteries. There's these iron rust batteries that have a very, very low chance of catching on fire. So what exactly the technology is still being determined. It's not guaranteed that it would be like a lithium ion battery that, has that greater potential for combustion.
Anything else for Terry before we vote? All in favor? Those opposed? That's unanimous.
Thank you all.
Let's slide right into airport.
Okay, I'm going to give a brief report on a few items before we do the resolution. The PFCs, I know there has been questions on where we stand with that, and also the FBO revenue. I've been working on that. I'm working on the PFC information with county finance and CNS engineers to kind of determine where we stand with our collections and the projects associated, and then the next PFC application. So hopefully, it may not be December, it's probably going to be January, but I'll report back on those two items if I have the information in December, if not in January. RF-SRE building, that's coming back, to something happening with that. We got another grant from New York State towards the EOC portion of the RF-SRE building. It's a required component of this building. So we're looking at it. I'm actually Josh and I are meeting with county administration over the next few weeks to look at all of the funding opportunities, because there's also congressional direct spend that could be associated, how we can revamp this project, make it affordable, and something that we can do. The FAA, I know, is, allowed us to push this back, which we're grateful for. The grant we just received can be, it doesn't have to be used up, we have 5 years to use it, and we can do 1-year extensions. So we want to make sure that we're looking at all opportunities and any additional funding opportunities that we can obtain to make this something that the airport could afford. I knew when I brought this to you guys last month, we pulled it off our capital plan because we didn't have the funds, and I don't want to, I didn't want to come to the committee and to the ledge and ask for money at this time with our financial situation. So I think also the business plan, we can look at opportunities there with that. East Hill Flight Academy, we applied for an extension on that grant, so we've got another year. That's going to be going back out to bid. Hopefully we'll get something in and can get that taken care of next year. That'll be another critical component, for that building. So they're looking at doing that. The state, agreed to another year extension, which we're lucky that they did. This week, we hosted an FAA training here at the airport for DBEs, disadvantaged business enterprises. We had about 20 to 25 representatives here from airports across New York State. And we also were able to have people from the county attend this, which helps us in as it relates to county contracts and procurement. And because we receive federal funds, how, what language has to be in the contracts. We did some Title VI training on that briefly. The person that was supposed to attend wasn't able to. So just different information that's good, not only for our county staff, but for other airports. That's all I have. And I think the other ones are relating to, the parking. I pulled the parking resolution. We did an RFP for that. The contract's due to expire in January. We did receive 3 proposals, but we're looking at them more closely. We've asked for additional information from 2 of the companies. I may need to ask for an extension on the parking agreement. I would like to really get an agreement where it's either cost neutral or a revenue generator for the airport, as it's always been. And right now, it's not looking like we can get that out of the proposals that we received. So we may factor more of that contract into the business plan, and that we're doing the strategic plan. Maybe they can help. So I may be coming back in December, not with an award of the proposal or award of the bid, but a extension of the current parking contract in order to get this taken care of.
Things going ahead with conversations with the airlines?
They are. We actually have a couple of meetings set up for the next couple of weeks. It's just a continuous talking with them, working on, because we did receive the Small Community Air Service Development Grant. So we're in the process of working with our current airline partners on getting that to fruition, talking to them on opportunities and how we can increase our flights. Our load factors, I just pulled it up. We're running high 80s, low 90s on all 4 of our flights, which has been great. So that's critical information to share with the airlines so that they know, we have people flying and wanting to fly. And we've had multiple people from here travel for business and personal. They've been able to get decent price tickets out of the airport. And I know it's not always the case. I know, sometimes the cost is higher out of Ithaca. But, one of our things is try Ithaca. And, a lot of times you can get a price cheaper or within $100 of other airports. And it's nice to be able to get home and be back home within 10 to 15 minutes, so.
Thank you. Any other questions before we take the resolutions? Let's do resolution authorizing 2-year extension to the Air Services Board, Ithaca Tompkins International Airport. Randy moves it, Lee seconds it. Discussion?
This is just where we're going to extend it for 2 years because we have to look at the bylaws. So we're going to be, there's the updated bylaws policy for the advisory boards. So we're going to be looking at those. They're going to also be working with our consultant for the business strategic plan. So I think, we will extend it out farther, but I think, give us 2 years to get, things into place with the current Air Service Board and then move forward.
Ready to vote? Those in favor? That's unanimous. Award of contract airport cleaning services, Ithaca Tompkins International Airport, 12047. Moved by Lee, seconded by Randy. Discussion?
So this was, again, was an RFP for the cleaning contract. We received 8 bids, went through them. Our current employer, Redderer, they came in with the best proposal. They actually came in slightly lower than we had budgeted for next year, which that's a Christmas miracle in itself, if you ask me. And they're also employing 2 full-time employees. That was one of the requirements of the RFP, is to make sure, we're giving, employees within the county, full-time employees, full-time jobs, which helps in the benefits associated with that. And they've been doing a great job. The terminal looks great. They take very good care of it.
Ready to vote? Those in favor? Any opposed? That's unanimous. Anything else this morning, Roxanne?
Oh, I can give a quick shout out. There's 3 volleyball teams, 1 in Tioga County, 2 in Tompkins that are going to the state tournament this weekend. My daughter's assistant coach for the Candor volleyball varsity team. And there's Trumansburg volleyball team and Lansing volleyball team are all going to the New York State Championship in Glens Falls. So it's a big deal.
Well, that's exciting. We're glad to hear about
Yeah.
that.
Are they flying?
Sure.
Oh,
No, Candor's taking a regular school bus, so no thank you. I'm driving up in a car. That's it.
Okay.
Thank you.
I thought Fernando was here, but I think we'd already taken care of his issue. Ralph, did you want to talk to us this morning?
Yes, good morning. I see that I'm on there's an agenda item regarding the Public Safety Committee meeting, or the Public Safety Building
Discussion,
schedule.
we're about to get to that.
That's why I'm here.
Okay, we're glad to have you.
So if I can share my screen. So this schedule has been shared before, but was focused on the Center of Government project. I provided it, it's maybe been almost a month ago, and it shows the Center of Government project on the top and the public safety below that. The focus had been previously on the Center of Government schedule, and I think there was a request to have a discussion on the public safety building schedule, so that's why I'm here to discuss that. And so let me focus on the public safety building portion. If you can, let me know if you can, are you able to see the zoomed in on the public safety building?
Yeah, we can see your screen.
Okay.
Some of
Are you
some of
able
the
to
writing is
see
not real big.
the zoomed in portion of the public safety building?
Yep.
Okay, so along the left side, I show the various activities and design and construction for the public safety building. The first one being space program update and committee review and approval, 3 months in schematic design phase. And then after that, I show a 2.5-year pause. And that would be consistent with the Center of Government. During that pause, the focus would be on the Center of Government design and construction. And then we would pick up design development, which is the third activity here on the left, which would be 5 months. We would then pick that up to start up in 2027, most likely the first couple of months of 2027 with design development. And then this kind of lavender or purple is the construction documents phase, which is here. And then after that is your bidding, which is 4 months, which is this one here. I'm not sure, are you able to see my cursor as I?
Yes.
Okay. And then this green, which is construction, would start probably late spring of 2028. And that's phase 1 public safety building addition, which is a 14th month phase. The next phase is PSB moves into the new area, which is about a month. There's a phase 2, which is renovation of the old public safety building portion into jail space. That's basically the space that is currently occupied by the Sheriff's Administration, Road Patrol, and Civil. That would be 6 months to renovate that space. And then the jail would move into the renovated space. And most of that renovated space would be program space. It's not detention space, but it's basically a space for the added program space, classrooms, meeting areas, things like that. And then this board out of all inmates, in order for us to accomplish the work in the jail side, the detention side, we would have to board out the inmates for 21 months. And then the phase 3 would be start renovations, addition of the new jail space. That would be 18 months. And then we would issue the certificate of occupancy, final completion, moving into the new jail would be 3 months. And then the last phase would be move all inmates back into the facility. And it's hard to show the entire schedule all in just one view, but if I scroll all the way to the end, completion with the actual moving of the inmates down here would be roughly the end of 2031, either October, November, December of 2031. And we basically would have to do this, as I said, in phases, because we would not want to empty out the entire building. So we would have to do one portion first and move certain programs into there. Really the most, one that's going to affect inmates because of board out is this latter phase before we do renovations to the jail space. I'm showing here at the top, and I've indicated this before to committee, that we would want to do the schematic design phase sooner. So I'm showing it for 2024 in order for us to really have a good idea of the cost for these improvements. To this point, it's all been conceptual, and those concept costs are about 3 years old now. And so we would want to do the schematic design phase next year after we've done this phase 1 space program update. And that basically is looking at the recommendations that came out of the public safety building working group and determine if there are additional program spaces we want to include. And then we would share that with public safety as well as this committee to get approval of what additional space we want to add as far as program space. The original plan, conceptual plan, already includes a lot of the program space. However, that working group did make recommendations for some additional program space. So that's what that initial phase would be, about 3 months to really work that out before we start into a schematic design phase for this project. So in total, if we were to start, it's unlikely that we would start this year. I mean, I had developed this October, but if we were to start, let's say January, this project would not be completed until the end of 2031.
Well, thank you for that, Arel. We had a lot of questions previously wanting to see the two timelines next to each other. Is there some way we can do that so that the rest of the legislators are able to compare them?
Yes, let me, whoops.
Lisa?
So just wanted to, for point of clarification for the committee and for Arel, that in our current capital plan, the schematic design phase or the schematic design costs for public safety is not in 2024's capital budget, it's in 2025. So if we wanted it to be in 2024, that would require a different expenditure.
I'm a little confused then. At one point, we were seeing the capital for 2024, I believe it was $7 million for the Center of Government and $2 million for the Public Safety Building, or 5 and 2, I can't remember what it was. But I guess I was thinking that we were going to have $2 million in there to start work on the schematic and stuff.
The fund balance meaning?
Yes.
That was the suggested reserve. We were suggesting when we were having that conversation to set a reserve aside that would allow for that, but that action did not get taken.
So what was set aside, Norma? No, it wasn't there
For public safety, it's budgeted for next year right now. we don't have a reserve set. We are bringing, we still have a reserve policy to talk about. So whether that is an opportunity, well, it is an opportunity to put some funding aside for reserve accounts to support these programs.
So you're saying we can't do anything in 2024?
It's not within the current capital plan, so it's, you know, without an additional action, it's not an automatic in the 2024 capital budget.
Because I'd like to know what, if we wanted it to go ahead on the timeline that Aurel has suggested here, and I realize there's that 2.5-year pause, but if we wanted to get this thing started, what we would need to do. And Randy has a question.
No, just comments. I know you're working on the capital plan, and it's great that you're working on that. I think that's really going to determine where we're going with this, whether or not there's funds, or we want to put funds towards this project. I don't like that this is 2031 completion either.
Awful.
I've got concerns about that because I think things need to be done up there. So I think understanding that capital plan and whether or not the legislature wants to move that forward, I think that's a discussion we have to have. I would vote in favor of moving things forward, using reserve for some of that. When I look at this project and when I look at, for example, boarding out for 21 months, it'd be nice to know what that potentially could cost. But I've done research on this, and just because I was bored one day, and as to what other counties were doing with jails, and they were going through the same thing. And quite a few of them had brought in temporary modular buildings where they housed inmates in them, and then they reutilized these structures. They brought in, one of them brought in a temporary medical facility, for example. Another one brought in ones for detoxing, which I know is an issue for right now that we're dealing with. And they are secure, they're certified by the federal prison system and all those kinds of things, and they're not as expensive as I thought. So I'm just thinking that, you know, we should think about this structure and because it seems like we need to move forward quicker than this, so.
Lee?
Morel, I'm trying to look at your chart there. It's even with the $700 I just spent on these glasses, I'm having a hard time. You're looking at, before the pause, a period of time in the first 6 months, plus or minus, of 2024 for a schematic design?
Well, what I've said before at committee was that I think there were questions about the costs, pinning down the cost. I said in order for us to do that, we would have to start the schematic design phase. I mean, this schematic design can happen at any point, between where I'm showing it to before we start design development, which would be early 2020, beginning of 2027. So yeah, if you want better numbers, that's why I was recommending doing the schematic and laying it out. And that slide, correct.
And my question is, looking above that at the Center of Government building, are you anticipating a schematic design for that just right afterwards?
Under this schematic design would be right here. I don't know if you can see my cursor, would be, it's the same color as what I'm showing this bar. So that would, like mid 2024, because there are a few steps that we would need to do prior to that to get to schematic design.
And there's my interest in it, is getting a schematic design on both of them to have an idea moving forward what the overall prices of the two projects would be as we move to commit to one or the other or both, or move it along. Forget about the pause and the moving. I really want to know, as we contemplate the Center of Government, what the next project is potentially going to cost us and how to sync that together.
I think that's a good point. I would also be concerned that if we wait 2.5 years to do schematics, guess what? Some other project's going to come along and the jail public safety building is going to get pushed back again, as it has over and over again. I think we need to get it started, I think, to show that we're serious about making an improvement to that building. So I don't know what more we can say today, but I'd certainly like to see options.
What I did want to indicate, and I think you can see it better in this view, is that basically the direction I'd been given is not to have concurrent construction for both projects. So that's why we're not starting construction for public safety until we've completed center of government. And so that's why it's in 2028. And that's the reason for the 2.5-year pause. So that's really the direction that I was given, and that's why it's 2031. But what I should say, I was up at Public Safety this morning. We have started the short-term improvements at Public Safety already. The focus has been on the Sheriff's Administration side and then in the mechanical space. And so the purpose of doing that project, as some of you may recall, was to basically buy us 5 years' time until such point as the legislature either made a decision to move forward with a larger project or not. But so those were to address, the major building deficiencies at the public safety building. Not all the deficiency. It did not resolve their space issues for program. It really dealt with building deficiencies. And so that work will be completed probably mid next year. So if you put, 5 years to 2024, we're already, 2028, 2029. So, I mean, as far as that timing, I think to just settle any concerns that committee members may have is that, that was to address any potential failures that could occur while we're waiting. What it does not address, again, is the space needs that have come up not only from Public Safety Committee, but also from the working group, which is the program space.
Lisa?
I also just wanted to remind committee members that the part of the timing was based on the financial modeling to try to smooth out so that there was not a spike in the debt service and therefore the tax levy. But the point you raised, Lee, is a good one, that the modeling thus far has been done on estimates for both projects, cost estimates for both projects. We don't have the final estimates, more solid numbers for both projects. And when we do that, we would need to plug those into those financial models. But one will have, the reason for the staggering and the public safety building on the longer horizon is because of that smoothing out that that hit to the levy.
Yeah, and then
Go ahead, Earl.
another response to Randy's question. So Randy, yes, when we were doing the conceptual estimates, at least almost 3 years ago, we did look at the cost for boarding out versus bringing in modular units, because that has been done in other places. At the time, the cost to do that, to bring them in, was more than boarding out, but it's definitely something that we would look at again in the schematic phase. We would look at options that we have. We would share that with the committee, but right now the boarding out cost is about $2 million, so it's not an insignificant number. It's a large number. It's about $90 a day per inmate. So that's based on also projections of what the inmate count will be during that period.
If we were to build pods, would we be able to build the pod, then move the prisoners in, and then redo the the old cell blocks?
No, no, because all of the infrastructure, so the heating, the electrical, all of that would need to be tied in. I mean, to do that, typically it would cost more money if you wanted to do it that way. You'd have to do it in sections. I would advise against that. It's easier if we give the contractors just free rein to the space. They can move much faster. We don't have to be moving inmates or operations in that portion of the building as we phase it. That's what we're doing actually now for the short-term improvements. We're doing it while the building is occupied. It's costing more money, but it somewhat saves us a little bit by not boarding out a large number of inmates, but we're having to zone it in like 20-some zones, so we complete work in only a small section completely before we move on to the next section of the jail side.
Randy?
Thanks for that. Yeah, I do know they have permanent modular pod systems out there now too, that is fairly new, that would be easier to construct and maybe save some time. I had another comment, I forgot what it was. So.
Okay, anything else we should know about this? Can we make sure your timeline gets sent out to the other legislators?
Yes, I know I'd sent it before, but I will send it to Katrina and make sure that it gets out to everyone.
That would be helpful, because I think that would be responding to their question that they ask of us.
Okay.
Anything else on this today?
No, I just, I'm back to the same thing as, I won't quibble over the timelines on the construction. It's just, I really would love to see some numbers developed this year and a scope of project so that we can consider it in the full context. They're the two biggest projects we'll probably ever see in county government. I can't think of anything that's going to exceed those numbers for generations.
I think some of us felt strongly that we needed to move this project along, but I think we got outvoted.
But there's obviously an opportunity that's being anticipated that we could be looking at something that better defines what the public safety project would look like.
I agree. So let's.
I'd encourage it.
I think maybe we should have some discussions among the legislators. Norma.
Would you, do you want us to prepare a resolution that would then request to use the funds to do this initial study, and bring that to the next committee meeting?
I think we should hold off until we've had some discussions among the other legislators. I don't want to pull something strange. I mean, when I raised the issue of could we trade the projects and do this one first and push the center of government back, I thought one legislator who sat across the room from us was going to fall out of his chair, but I don't think that we should move ahead with it without letting folks know, be aware that we might want to do that.
Well, I'd like to know the flexibility in the capital program that might allow us to at least get to numbers in what it would take to do that. It looks as though it could be accommodated from a work standpoint here. And the question is there room with what's been allocated for the capital program in the year ahead, or what might be available through reserves? At least get to that answer. What it might look like, not necessarily moving ahead.
So, Rel, not with tongue-in-cheek, I'm just going to say, aren't we going to ask the new project manager to do at least 3 projects at one time?
Well, I mean, in the design side, it's not a large workload. I mean, I'm doing it now, or have been for many, many years. So no, it's really once we get into the construction that it gets much more burdensome.
But hopefully you'll have a new project manager fairly soon.
Yes.
Okay, shall we move on? Thank you very much, Arel, for that report.
Thank you.
Transportation, ITCTC meets Tuesday, so I'll have more to report after that policy meeting. Can we take the minutes of October 19th? Randy moves them. Lee seconds. Discussion about the minutes. All in favor? That's unanimous. We appreciate the work that goes into the minutes from our staff. What else?
Did you have any comment on the article you shared with us here today?
Oh, well, that's really not our committee, but I thought it was interesting that Portland Standard reported that there's a state grant to help homeless people set up teams in Cortland with 5 people, and for Cortland and Tompkins, a team of 4 people. So I'm just simply interested to know how that's going to go forward, but I assume that's going to be at a different committee.
I would imagine since it's an OMH grant, it would be through Whole Health and Health and Human Service Committee.
We get some really interesting local news articles out of the Cortland Standard that we don't get out of our own paper.
Did you see the article that commented on comparing the coverage of county government between Tompkins and Cortland with the local papers about Tuesday or Wednesday of last week?
I don't remember. Was that a letter to the editor? Or?
No, the managing editor was contrasting and had people that lived between the 2 counties that were talking about what they were educated about in Cortland versus Tompkins. If you keep the papers, it'd be interesting for you to go back and look at it.
I might have missed that one, but maybe it was the editor's column or something there.
It was.
It's an old Cortland Standard is still a hometown paper, but even they've had to stop publishing on Mondays now.
Their coverage of county government is just fantastic over there.
Portland County government.
Yeah.
All right, anything else? We appreciate everybody on the screen. Anybody on the screen that we haven't asked to comment, who might like to comment? I see Bridget's there and Katie and all right. Move to adjourn? We're adjourned.